Hey everybody, thanks for coming down. We are so incredibly excited to have you here and to talk about this bike park, Steelville Bike Park. I'm Jacob Beers, part of the Steelville Mountain Biking Collective, and the guy who I guess had the original thought to put this thing in Steelville. And there's a lot of us here from the Steelville Mountain Biking Collective who've been super supportive, and we put in a lot of time. At this point, I know a lot of you know what that feels like, so thank you again so much for coming down. And for those of us who don't know us, we're the Steelville Mountain Biking Collective. We're basically just an organization that's advocating for building trails here in Steelville. We think we have a lot of good terrain for it, and we think that it could be a great thing for our community. So I'd like to invite Kurt Merseal to talk to you a little bit about the vision that we have for the bike park.
So, as Jacob said, my name's Kurt Merseal. My wife and I, we've been locals for a little over 20 years, raised our family here, raised our kids, and we love this little town. Little history on me, we were trying to find where we was going to set our roofs down 20 plus years ago. We drove through town. We seen some of the old shops, got out, checked them out, and it's like, this is a cool town. Then we made it down to the park, and the town had us at that point. So looking back 20 plus years later, we wouldn't do a thing different. And we were proud to call this little town home. Perspective I come from is we are avid mountain bikers. We have traveled the country, my wife and I with the kids, dragging them along ever since they were little bitty, watching them race, riding, just having a good time. And we love going to small towns to ride bikes, and it's an event. It's more than just riding a bike. It's a family event. And as we look at our town that we love so much, we think that we can make it even better by bringing the bikes in. So what I'd like to talk about is the vision. Here's the vision for the collective, and I'll speak on behalf of the Steelville Mountain Bike Collective. Really, before we talk about that, I need to talk about the assessment of our town. It's a small town. It's got a small town vibe. It's nested here in the Ozarks, and we have no intention of changing that. We don't want to see this turn into a big town. We don't want to see it turn into a city. We want it to stay Steelville, but just a little bit better. And we think we have a way of doing that. You know, we look at this town, and you know, when you drive through it, if you're not familiar, you're going to notice right off the bat, there is something different about Steelville. Some little towns, you'll cruise through them, you get to the far side, and you don't remember anything but the stop sign. Here you come through, and right off the bat, it's like, all right, we're the float capital. The Art Council has art everywhere, so we got a little culture going there. We're a music town. You know, now what we would like to do is add mountain bike to that brand. And we think that that's a way to improve the town without changing it, without making it huge, just enhance the opportunities that our kids have, that old guys like me have, and it's a good way to support the town and the commerce and everything that goes with it. So that's how we see it. And that's our vision. The way we'd like to accomplish the vision is 3 phases. Phase 1 would be a mountain bike park on city property. The city has approximately 150 acres, give or take, that's located directly behind City Hall. If you look at the ground, it's rough, it's rolling hills, it's got rocks, it's got big drops, you know, if you were a builder, you'd say, man, this is horrible. If you're a mountain biker, you're like, this is heaven. I mean, it's beautiful. It has everything you look for when you go to build a mountain bike park. Not only does it have good dirt, good terrain, good setting, but it has an excellent location. Excellent, you know, it's close to town. It's linked to the Greenway, which brings you right up into the heart of town. And if you look on a bigger picture, you know, we're right off 44. You've got St. Louis on one side, Springfield, Bentonville, Arkansas, and now we've got Ironton to the south of us. That's going to be drawing tons of mountain bikers. So if you're looking at it on a small scale, the terrain is perfect. If you look at it, you know, on a bigger map, it's perfect that way too. So phase 1 would be to build approximately 10 acres on this 150 acres of property. All right, 10 miles of trail, that 150 acres. And that would be composed of basically a cross-country loop that would go around the outside of it. And it's not just going to go around it, but it's going to go throughout, but essentially on the outside. We have a map up here, or we have a map, and that's just kind of a generic map, kind of giving us an idea of the potential. But the outer loop is cross-country. it's for all skill levels. It's a multi-directional trail, a multi-use trail. You can run it, you can walk it, you can ride it. And you don't have to be an excellent mountain biker to ride this. But if you are an excellent mountain biker, you'll still love it. It'll be a trail the way we envision it. It's going to be flowy. It's going to have big bank turns. It's going to have small jumps. It's going to have, features, obstacles, things that when you see it, you can't help but stop and get the camera out, videoing your buddy, your kids coming through it. Then you're going to go home and tell people about it. So that's kind of the outer loop trail. It's for everyone. Then when you look on the inside of it, we plan on having what we call gravity lines or gravity trails. And this is where you're going to use the 200 feet of vertical drop, and you're going to use it fast. And they're going to be rated, and it will be signed, and so you will know what you're getting into. And so they'll be rated from green, blue, black, double black, and the darker the color, the more extreme it gets, the more skill you better have, and you better have a bike that fits your style of riding. But those will be built, and it will be built in a way that you're going to have big drops. I mean, it's going to be, if you're coming down and you got a major drop and you're not ready for that, there will be what we call the B line. You can go around it, and it's still exciting, it's still fun. So it kind of brings in all the different skill levels once again, but not as easy as a cross country. So that's the concept of phase one. The important things about phase one is if we don't nail phase one, we will never see phase two, and we'll definitely never get to phase three. So phase one has to be a bomb with everybody. And so if you look at how we build it, you could go out there and we could do it, do it yourself, trail build, and we could have a decent trail. But the problem is, it's not going to draw all the attention. We're not going to be able to have the social media platforms, just go crazy with it. So the way we want to do it is we want to have a professional trail building company come in. And there's numerous companies that operate throughout the country. They're in high demand and very unique. I mean, they're modern construction companies. They just specialize in building bike trails, mountain bike trails. What's really unique about them is besides being artists and every time they build something, they're not just satisfying a contract, they're putting their brand on it. And their brand is everything to them. Now, I'll give you an example. There's a company, Jagged Axe, building a park in Ironton. It's not even open. I mean, no one from the public has even rode it. And they've already got the biggest enduro race. And enduro is a style of mountain biking. They've already got the biggest enduro race in the country planned for May. And it's based upon this trail builder's brand. So that's why we're looking to have either that company or a similar company come in and do the build, because then you're going to get all the hype that comes with it. And that's what we need to make success. If we build this and it's only locals riding it, we're going to have a great time, it's going to be fun, but it's not going to be success when you look at big picture. We want this to actually start changing the dynamics of our town. And so that's phase one. Phase two would be continue that build, add more trails on that property, look at some of the other city properties that we think would make good trails and start building on those, and look at some of the private lands and non-for-profit lands that's in town or just outside of town that we could start linking the trail system. Phase three would be continue the build. Once we've seen the success of one, and phase one and phase two, then that will drive phase three. And that's where we try to get private landowners to allow easements. And all the hillsides in Steelville, we would love to see etched with mountain bike trails. So when you're riding around in your vehicle, you're driving through, not only are you seeing the float capital, not only are you seeing the yard and all the other good things, now you're looking on the hillside, you're like, wow, look at these mountain bike trails. I may not own a bike, but I'm going to soon and I'm coming back. Or if you do have a bike, you're definitely coming back. So that's the vision. We don't want to change this town. We don't want to necessarily grow it. We don't want to make it bigger. We just want to add mountain biking to the brand and increase the opportunities for everyone. Bring outsiders in, and let's have our youth have the opportunities that other kids do in other towns. So that's where we're at. That's where we're trying to go, and that's kind of a little history on why. So I think you followed by Dave.
If Dave wants to come up.
Hello everyone, my name is Dave Schulz. I'm with GORC and a sub-arm called GORC Gravity, Gateway Off-Road Cyclists. 20-plus year volunteer organization that is established probably around 100 miles of trail and maintains all that 100 miles of trail with continued expansion into other parks today. The purpose of forming our subgroup was to provide a guide for communities like yourself to learn and get through establishing a bike system in your community. Basically, you can kind of think of us like translators. So there's a lingo that goes with bikes that kind of is a little elusive unless you're in the community. We'll translate, we'll get you through it, we'll introduce you to the process of first the introductions to the community, the economics, all of those pieces start to fall in, and quite honestly, this team here has mostly done it all themselves. Kurt, that's a great speech. The second part of it is then planning and designing and going through all of that. We will work with the city as consultants, volunteer side only, it's all volunteer, to guide you through the bid processes, all the different elements that come with that, and helps you to select the best builders for your community. Once that's established, we do some future proofing. We like to make sure you're all set up with all of the important people, from race promoters to all the people that do the training to events, and then we even have Seth over there, our YouTuber, so we can get marketing, stuff like that. Let's see. Oh, and we got Justin down there. You have to excuse me. See, our other YouTuber, little Justin. Move into introductions and say hello. Mr. Bob. This is a Mayor Bob from Ironton. He was kind enough to make the trip out here today. Helped bring a little validation to this movement and this effort. Do you have anything to say, sir?
I'm a politician.
I
You're going to ask me if I want to say something? No, I'm happy to be here today. I'm 100% in support of what you guys are trying to do here with the mountain bike community. I know you have the canoeing thing going here, and that's great. I think mountain biking will add a new dimension to your town and everything. I will say that, Dave and GORC came to us in October 2019 with this idea about mountain biking and gravity biking, and we never heard of that. They explained it to us, and it sounded reasonable. And so we started through the process, and they have been so helpful helping us through the process and helping us to get this build going. We did hire Jag Axe to do our trails, and they've been building the trails. There's a map over here on the table of the trails that we've done so far. So far what we're doing is gravity trails on Shepherd Mountain. And if you go out and you watch those guys build, they're working excavators, and I'm used to watching people dig ditches and stuff. These people are artists. They are sculpting rock in the ground in that to make trail, and it's just impressive just to go out and watch them work. So working with Alex and his company has just been fantastic. We're scheduled to open the trails April the 3rd, and open it to the public. On May the 2nd, Big Mountain Enduro is coming, and they're going to have the first nationwide enduro race in the Midwest. And so, we're just thrilled to have that, and it's just unbelievable things that are happening. And it all started with that guy up there coming in and making a proposal to us. So I fully support what you guys are doing here. The more that we can do in southeast Missouri, the more it makes it a destination for people to come. And I think it really is a good thing for tourism, what you're doing here. So I support it.
Thank you, sir. To build on what the mayor was saying, in relationship to gravity trails, to give a little translation there, basically think of it like Six Flags. We're building the roller coasters first. So a lot of communities will start by building the walking trails, the sidewalks, the community hiking trails. Those are important elements, and they're not to be understated. They're a must to make the complete package. But in the short term, to see tourism, to make a mark, to fulfill, in this town, I see a gap in the wintertime, to get people through, all the way through winter into the floating season, to get tourism in here. you would build the roller coasters first. And the roller coasters are what Mr. Kurt was talking about. That's the gravity-fed trails, that's the directional trails, that's the exciting thing. And they don't have to be en masse, but there needs to be a certain amount to get attention, to get that notoriety. Basically, we need to qualify to get into Matt's world over there. Matt Johnson is the founder of the Missouri Enduro Series, Loki Timing, basically event host, race promoter, all those things. And if we build it to a standard that allows him to host, that's where the tourism will start.
Like I said, my name is Matt Johnson. I am Loki Events, Loki Timing, and Missouri Enduro Series. That's the thing, it's Missouri. Missouri's huge. I've got races all the way down in Branson, Poplar Bluff, right down here at Berryman, and then also, of course, in St. Louis and in Kansas City. I am still working on stuff further south on toward Joplin also. So I would love for something to be put in here to bring an opportunity to bring a race here, you know. But then again, that's the things you had commented that you'll see the trails up on the mountain. Bob, when you're driving down 21, can you actually see the trails up on Shepherd Mountain?
Yeah, it's amazing. They started the trail build last year, and we had 3 excavators and a skid steer all working together at the same time on different parts of the mountain. You couldn't see any of them, okay? If you didn't know they were there, you wouldn't know they were there. And so, and that's the other beautiful thing is, in the summertime, you can't see the trails. So it doesn't detract from the environment. And one of the things, just one last thing, what I keep stressing for our community is to utilize the assets we have without destroying them. Mountain biking doesn't destroy the assets that you have.
And I can't stress enough to, because I am huge about the environment. I grew up in the country myself and avid hunter and everything else. You're not even gonna know they're there unless you walk within 20 feet of it. Then you'll know it to be there. It's not gonna, you're not gonna be driving down Highway 19 or 19 here or Highway 8 and say, oh, look at those trails. No, you're not gonna be able to see them. It's not gonna take away from the community or anything like that as far as an eyesore is what you would say. So I average between 150 to 350 people at my events. Those are just the racers themselves. That's not including the spectators and stuff like that. So, and I do a large variety of events. I do gravel Enduro races also, which is a different format of gravel racing. I also do endurance races also, which are either 6-hour, 12-hour, 24-hour races or 50 to 100-mile races. So, and then I, like this beginning of this year, my first race is March 28th at the Chubb Enduro up in Eureka. So I'm always looking for unique and just like Ironton, very unique things that they have, and I think you guys have something very unique here that could really help out the community and the businesses as far as restaurants, gas stations, and motels, hotels, and sorts like that. So, does anybody have any questions for me? Okay, David?
Thank you, Matt. So the next piece of that would then be to transition into our trainers and a focus into the community, the kids, the schools, which will lead us into NICA. First, I want to introduce Jay. Roots mountain biking. Yeah, throw you right in the spotlight. It's up to you. You can stay there. It's fine.
Yeah, I'll stay there. Could you actually come up, Jay?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, for camera purposes.
There, sure.
This is Jay Thomas, founder of Roots Mountain Biking, and he's been an integral player at several of our parks and assisting.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, like he said, I'm Jay. I run a company called Roots Mountain Biking. We teach mountain bike camps and skills clinics all over the Midwest. I'm also an instructor trainer, and I sit on the board of directors for the Bicycle Instructor Certification Program. So all that essentially means is I coach other instructors that want to be certified as instructors. My interest in this is well, most of it's personal. I just want to ride this kind of stuff, but also it certainly is a big part of my business, and it's a big part of kind of the lifestyle I want to live. I grew up in Maine, went to college in New Hampshire, and then moved out to Colorado for several years. I've been in the cycling industry as a sales representative for about 20 years now. That tends to mean you move around quite a bit. And I think a lot of my life I was kind of moving around to the places I thought would make me happy. I lived in Boulder, Colorado, which was insanely expensive. I lived in the coast of New Hampshire and Massachusetts, which is also very expensive. And through cycling, through a job, I was working for Specialized Bicycles. They moved me out here to St. Louis in 2011, I think it was. And over the past 9 or 10 years, my wife and I have just kind of found a unique happiness here. And what we've realized is that it's much easier to create the environment you want to live in versus trying to just move there and find happiness. What we've also realized is that all of us work well because we are able to accomplish things because we all kind of just take a piece of it. No one has to take on the entire project of all these things that we're trying to do. In the past, we probably did a little bit too much of that and got burned out. We're like, nope, I'm done. Now there's more people that are getting involved because we're seeing people have success with this, or seeing us have success with some of these new parks and new trail builds. For me, from a coaching aspect, this stuff that is professionally built is just way safer. I can teach someone twice as fast in a much more controlled environment, and it gets people out and enjoying themselves on their bikes more. In reality, we just want people to have fun on their bikes. If they're having fun, they'll ride more, and then generally that's kind of makes for a better life. That's my spiel.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
Basically, and Jay said it right, I had a similar experience. Born and raised in St. Louis. I spent a lot of time just outside of Viburnum, actually, so floating and all that's been a big part of my childhood. Traveled all over. Spent a lot of time in different cycling communities. Ours is different. It's a really great community, and just for the reasons Jay said, how we all take the weight and how we all spread it across and build on all of that camaraderie, and we're able to do that and then help these different cities and towns develop their side of the cycling. Jay focuses predominantly on the adult side of training and instruction. And Cody, where are you hiding? There you are. I want to introduce Cody Jones. Cody Jones represents two sides of the house. He is founder of Wheels Up, kids instruction, adult instruction too, all kinds of stuff. And then he brings NICA to the table as well, which I'll let him talk about.
Yeah, so me and Jay, because I also work in the bike industry, I'm also outside sales rep, working for myself, covering for several different brands, but working for NICA, I work as a volunteer, so my job with NICA is I'm a coach supporter. What that is a supporter of the coaches. So I work with the league, helping them to promote youth cycling. So what NICA is a 6th grade through 12th grade racing and cycling league. So it also encompasses things like trail corps, so youth working to help build trails like what you guys are talking about today. We also do programming like adventure, so kids doing stuff that's not necessarily racing oriented. We also do something called Grit, which is focusing on getting girls into cycling. So it is a really all-encompassing youth program. So right now, currently in the US, there are 28 states and 29 leagues in NICA. So it's really rapidly growing. It seems like we're adding new states almost every year. Of those 29 leagues, in 2020, we had 24,000 student athletes racing in these leagues, which is awesome. With that, I think we end up having over 13,000 coaches. So, and all those coaches are volunteers. So right now in the Missouri League last year, obviously, we had a thing called COVID, which put a little damper on the league. But we still ended up with, I want to say, 140 coaches in the first year, which was the biggest turnout of coaches of any of the actual leagues, which is really cool, and over 260 riders. This year we're expecting more than a 35% growth for the NICA League here in Missouri. And what that entails, like for a community like Steelville, is that there's potential to have these big race events. Our hope is that over the next several years, we're going to be approaching, Matt, 300 racers, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to be looking at potential races that could be in upwards of 500 to 1,000 student athletes, and that's all their families, coming to a community and spending their money, just like with Matt, bringing people into your community to help generate revenue. So that's kind of a little bit of a higher level about the league. So there's leagues. It does eventually focus into getting into the schools, but it's a lot of times taking like a volunteer and to start a league or a team down here. Obviously, I can answer questions. There's a lot of questions, I'm sure, for NICA. But I also own a company called Wheels Up. I've been doing youth mountain bike instruction. This will be year 14. Kind of a former school teacher, worked in the bike shop, and kind of blended my passion for working with youth and riding mountain bikes. So it's one of those where we teach skills, and a lot like what Jay does with adults, jumps from everywhere from beginners, just learning how to ride, all the way up to doing, technical downhill trails like what you guys potentially would have here. So the infrastructure would be obviously enticing to be able to bring clients and also have clinics here. We'll be doing the same thing at Shepherd Mountain and Eureka Mountain Bike Park. So it's definitely appealing for all of us mountain bikers.
My wife and I met, we were founding members of TrailNet, which was formed to build paved trails in the St. Louis region. We started with the Riverfront Trail and then went to Branch Trail. And then I ended up being an employee there and actually ran bicycle rides, which the largest one, we had 1,200 riders on a ride called the Strawberry Festival over St. Jacob, Illinois. They were going to farmers market to buy strawberries. We were able to contact some people at the one berry manufacturer out in, berry grower in California, and lined up. They actually supplied, through Schnucks Markets, they supplied St. Jacob with the strawberries they needed for their festival. They didn't have to buy the strawberries anymore. So it's all about getting events going. I was on the board for the Ozark Trail Association for nine years. And the Ozark Trail is just outside of Ironton, and it's just east of here. The Hoozok Conservation Area is the end point right now. We want to get up towards Pacific someday. He said GORC's 100 miles of trail. All the GORC sawyers, the chainsaw operators, we have all gone to the Forest Service for our training. I am not allowed to turn my chainsaw on until I have all my proper gear on. I've had parks personnel catch me coming out of the woods after sawing. They see me fully suited. They go, okay, you didn't know I was going to be here and you were suited up correctly. So some of the things that also have the trails, we have been down to the Wildwood Springs Lodge for a few times to see shows. Well, why run back home right away? We have come down and walked the different trails in here. We've gone over to Red Bluff campgrounds to walk the trails. So if there's another trail here we can enjoy besides walking down the river at Wildwood Springs Lodge, we could have another trail to walk. Well, by that time you walk the trail, well, you guys have to stop and eat lunch now. You can't just drive home after doing a quick walk. I've been through Steelville so many times, being down to Bass River Resorts for an Ozark Trail thing, and I always stop at the gas station up here on the way down to get some gas in the truck, pick up a few snacks, because I know coming back home, I want to get home, I don't want to stop for fuel. And I don't like just driving through town. It's not the right thing to do. Some of the other things that these trails also be useful for is, we talk about runners, walkers, bird watchers, geocachers. My brother goes all over Alabama and the closest states he can drive to find these geocaches. They make little containers you put out in the woods. Well, again, I wanted to see where the new city pound is going to be. Perfect hillsides for all these things. Being one of the maintenance people, I never want to see a tree get cut down. I want everything I can to stay. If you start cutting the canopy down and you open the ground to the sun, you're going to get weeds, and now you have maintenance issues that you guys don't want to see. You can go down and talk to the Ozark Trail Association. What happens when they cut the trees out? They end up having to spend so much of their effort and money keeping the trail clear. It just causes more troubles. When I worked at TrailNet, one man was a parks planner, and they actually have parks planner conventions. And he would come back with a chart that talked about, one was what everybody asks for in parks, and the other column was what people use. The first thing everybody asks for is pools. The one that used the least is pools. Down low on the list was always a trail to walk on or ride on. The thing that was used the most was trails. The lowest cost item to build for a parks department is trails. The highest usage is a trail, be it paved or natural surface. We walked the park down here today and walked down the creek and checked the creek out. We saw a number of people walking their dogs. It's just, you get to interact with people when you're in the parks. You've already talked about the single track. You don't see it. I have designed so many different trails up in town, and we're be out of the woods, and people say, there's trails up there? They don't know they're there, because as soon as, even in the winter time, it's hard to see some of them. It's just, it's not that big. Does everybody know how wide these trails are going to be? Most trails we build are only about this wide. You're not cutting a 12-foot corridor through the woods. It's very low impact. I think I've covered most of this stuff. But yep, thank you very much. It's another reason to get out in the woods and enjoy the trees and start identifying which trees. My wife took her Master Naturalist certificate, so when we're out, we try to identify the trees and wildflowers and rocks. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Glenn and GORC as a whole brings a structure that can be mimicked through the Steelville Collective here, and that will give you guys a future that is as low as maintenance as possible, as low as impact to the Parks Department, to the city as possible. We transfer a lot of that effort into the volunteer side. Another element to that is they take ownership, and that is key. Keeping trails clean, keeping the environment picked up, those kind of things are what you'll see the community, they come out of the woodwork. It's amazing. Once the trail systems are in, people are starting to help, starting to assist, and next thing you know, there's community days, there's planning. We actually have an annual calendar that is pretty full now, let alone the individual work that's going on at each park. All right. If you build it, they will come, that kind of statement. So if we can build the mountain bike park right, at the right level, out of the gate, we can complement it with a unique type of marketing. We did this in a few of our parks to include Ironton, and I'd like to introduce Seth of Backyard Trail Builds. This is a unique way to get an element in that will allow for marketing that is hard to put a numeric value on, honestly.
Yeah, so I'm Seth from a YouTube channel called Backyard Trail Builds. Essentially, it's just me building stuff in the woods, trail building, and I've gotten, like in Ironton, we built a big old corkscrew thing, and it got over like 1 million views or something now. So I guess I would just be willing to say that this town is awesome. I like it a lot, and I could be the, I guess, the person who gets the tourism going right off the bat. If you can get that first part, like Alex from Jagged Axe here, to get the infrastructure of like a really, really good, just a good start for a mountain biking trail, like with all the gravity stuff, with all the features that can really get people excited. I could be a part of that to, I don't know, get people more excited. Because I guess my main thing is woodworking, those features kind of stuff, the stuff that gets people kind of like, oh my gosh, what is that? That's awesome. I would almost like to be able to make stuff that's kind of artsy, kind of go along with the town. Like you guys have the artsy vibe, you have the canoes all painted throughout the town. Like the stuff that I like to build is very heavy into woodworking technique, so I would hope that the stuff is so cool looking that people want to just hike up even if they don't bike and they just want to see what would happen. But I can only do that, and I can only get tourism going into town or help with it if the infrastructure is there from a good trail building company. So you have to invest on that initial factor, which if you do that, then I'm a part of the package for sure. Like, this town's awesome, so that's kind of my whole spiel.
Thank you. And we were lucky enough, and they were kind enough. We have another YouTuber in our midst here. He's our secret weapon, because I don't think anybody can say no to this young man. So, I'd like to introduce OneMTB, young Justin.
Hi, my name is Justin Rausch, or some may know me as OneMTB, and I'm basically here today to talk about my story and what this park can do for kids and families. So, I'm 14, and I'm pretty short. Most of the kids in my grade are like 6 foot tall. So, when I started mountain biking about 2.5 years ago, you can probably guess how short I was. So, I was not good at team sports. So I got discouraged from that, but I have ADHD, so I always have to be moving and doing something. But I ended up turning to video games, and that did not work out for me. So I was inside all the time, and wasn't really doing many active things. And that was until a friend of mine gave me his old mountain bike that he outgrew. And the next day, my dad took me on my very first mountain bike ride, and my feet, like, seriously never left the pedals. And I found out how awesome the mountain bike community was, super friendly. So I wanted to share the excitement with other kids, so I started my own YouTube channel, OneMTB. Since then, I've gained fans all around the globe and made a bunch of friends. And mountain biking has truly changed my life for the better, and I think that every kid should have the opportunity to experience what I have. And building a mountain bike park like this is perfect for that, because it gets families off their phones, outside, and riding bikes. And I can guarantee you, if you build this park and you do it right, you will change many kids' lives just like it changed mine.
Thank you very much, OneMTB. That was hard to follow. It's neat actually traveling around with Justin and Seth. It's unusual, and I don't know your experience with YouTube and so forth. I've seen kids just hesitate. He wouldn't get out of his parents' car when he saw him. That's the kind of celebrity that these people are to that community, and that's what they can bring here. So our click-through rates and so forth with the Shepherd mountain bike, John has done by far most of the work on all of this. But if you see the click-through rates, we'll get anywhere from 80 to 400 likes right out of the gate, but you'll see 10, 12,000 click-throughs. And that is immeasurable in bringing marketing to the community. And that's what can be done here if done at the right level right out of the gate. On a note, I hadn't planned for him to talk, but I do want to say that we even have bike shop owners back here. Mr. Adam Scott, Mountain Bike Shed, thank you for coming out as well. Do you have anything you want to add?
I think the cool thing, we opened my shop about 3 years ago in Eureka. Eureka's got a few really cool parks around. The really noticeable thing is, you know, same with canoes, when people come to town and they're eating at restaurants, you'll see the bikes there. So it's going to be very obvious once the trails come in, why people are there and why they're spending money in your business. We've done really well where we're at. We're a mountain bike specific shop. When I opened, not only the town that I was in, everybody said was too small. They said you can't have a mountain bike focus. But back in 2016, we saw this mountain biking kind of phenomenon really beginning to grow. It's really gained steam in the last 2 years. So our revenues that we were able to bring into Eureka, we're close to about $200,000 the first year, which is typical of any small retail store. We're over $1 million in sales this past year. So, you know, and that's just my shop alone. If you look at all the money people spend, mountain bikers tend to be kind of 30 to 55-year-old, upper middle class families. So the people that are going to be coming to town are going to respect the area, they're going to eat at the restaurants, they're going to go ride their bike, and they're going to come and eat again. So it's a really good group of people to bring to town. They're going to spend money, and they're going to treat the town well. So really good for revenue.
Thank you, Evan.
And we market here specifically, so we do a bunch of Facebook marketing. We have a big firm that does it for us. We spend a ton of money on that. Our bubble's obviously around St. Louis, but we drop a specific bubble for Steelville and for Sullivan. We actually get a ton of people that come in to our shop that are up here. So we have a lot of mountain bikers in this area.
Thank you. And he's been floating around, but our buddy Alex back there, professional photographer, he does a lot of volunteer work as well as the paid professional side of it. And he's been integral in telling our story visually so that the community members who maybe aren't cyclists themselves can visualize and relate. And I implore you before you leave tonight to take a look at his work up here, as well as we have stuff from everyone else on the tables. But he's been fabulous. So, do you have anything to say, Mr. Alex?
Yeah. My name is Alex. My side job is just being a photographer. I do that as a passion. It's just something I do for fun, but I also turn it into sort of a little bit of a business, but I also use it primarily as volunteer work. And that's how I took my camera and combined it with my love of mountain biking. Because what I wanted to do is I just wanted to start showing who these people are, like who they are. Just start putting them on camera so people could see, because really all we are is these like two-wheeled knights just skirting through the woods, yipping and hoo-hawing and making jumps and rolling over rocks and falling and getting back up and digging trails. But it's a whole community. So when I started to point my lens at things, I wasn't just a biker myself having my own experience, because then you tend to think, well, everybody has the same experience as me. And that's what's so beautiful about this sport. Every person in this room, from you to you, all the way in the back, it doesn't matter who you are, if you decide to put your butt in a seat, there is a speed for you. There is a way to go for you with mountain biking, or cycling in general. So it's so inclusive. I don't think that there's another sport that is as good, maybe golf. And people don't like swinging things and hitting balls. It's really difficult to do. But just about anybody that has the ability to walk, and even people who can't, there's bikes for paralyzed people who can ride on trails. They're trikes, they're amazing machines. They can get out there and enjoy nature. And as I've been using my camera and taking pictures and telling stories, I get to see that community. I get to see the people behind it. So I guess what I mean is it's not fake. It's a real community of people. It's not something superficial. It's not just a business. It's not just advocacy. It's actually real people, just everyday people, like everyone in this room, doing something that they love. And some people love it so much that they will do it every day, every weekend. They will spend their last paycheck on something just to make sure their bike works so they can go hang out with their friends. But it also goes all the way down to the ground roots, to kids, like Justin over there, who it turns his life around a little bit, gives him direction, gives him something to aspire towards, and it's good for him. It gets him in shape, physical shape, it builds his confidence, but it also gets him in touch with nature and other kids. And he's not doing this with his cell phone every 5 seconds. It's in his pocket maybe, and maybe he'll say, hey, look at the ride I had today, but then he'll put it back in his pocket and get on his bike again. And it's just seeing this positive thing happen through my camera, I wanted to show that. And it redid the whole perception that I had of what I do as a mountain biker and a trail digger. You know, I volunteer with Glenn and GORC and we dig trails and stuff like that, but it helped me see the whole thing again through different eyes. And now I just want to show it because it's amazing. Every day that I go out and I shoot with my camera and I take pictures of people on mountain bikes, very, very, very seldom do they have anything but a smile on their face. So if you guys as a community embrace this, I promise there's nothing but positive rewards in multiple ways, far away and above and beyond a economic benefit. And now with NICA, the schools can embrace it as well. And you can have a community team that is like, you know, as big as the football team, but they're the cyclers, you know, and they can be out in the hills and bringing kids into nature and getting them out of their rooms and building confidence, just like Justin. They could be anybody. They can get on a bike and ride and just have an amazing time. So I can tell you from firsthand experience of just studying people and watching them, it's the real deal. So if you guys enjoy it and you put it into your community and you really embrace it, just like they're saying, you just kind of go for it, it's gonna pay dividends, I promise.
Thank you. So on the GORC gravity arm, we have a team that sits around, and we've got check boxes. And when we're asked to come talk to a community, we have all these check boxes that we'll go through and all these elements. And we spent time, they were kind enough to have us speak in front of the city council, the mayor. We went around on multiple days and scouted all of the lands and options and the future options. This town has it. As we did with Ironton, and Ironton had it, it's the same thing. There's different elements, they're gonna be different parks, but this is the place to build. This is that next element. This is the town size, the location of the property, the type of town that it is, the locations to the highway, to the interstate. All of those things matter. How the town operates, the floating, we factor all of that stuff in. We turn places down quite a bit, actually. A lot of different design, a lot of different options. But when we find one that hits all the check boxes, we make sure we tell the story and help you guys understand. And this place has that opportunity. Thank you again, and I'll turn the table back over to these guys. Appreciate your time.
What are your questions?
Yeah, I actually have a real quick little video from Alex at Jagged Axe. We want to watch that really quick.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, this is Alex with Jagged Axe Trail Designs. Really sorry I couldn't make the meeting tonight, but really excited to see some forward momentum with this potential project. You guys have quite a hidden gem there in Steelville, and I think just adding to the music and the floating that you guys already have with these mountain bike trails would make it an even more encompassing destination. And each of those adds to each other, and just the fact that the trails would tie right into downtown super well, it all lines itself up just perfectly for a mountain bike park. The terrain is great. You could have everything from beginner to expert trails, and with a collaboration with Seth, we could definitely create a very, very worthwhile destination that would get a lot of attention regionally and nationally even.
Alex this is the most adamant I've ever seen him about trying to be somewhere where he couldn't be. Besides, when we started Ironton, I have not received so many calls and text messages from this guy. It's endless. He is extremely excited about this, and to have his eye, that artist eye, to pick up on that means this town has that chance. This is the place. Thank you.
And he keeps saying, Alex, us as mountain bikers, we're not picky what trail we ride. But when we go to someone's trail who builds it, we know who built it. Or we'll even be on trails like, oh, we know who built this without even knowing who built it because of the way they built it. And that's why we keep bringing up Jagged Axe. We just want you to, we're not trying to make you go with Jagged Axe. But if you can, if you do, you will not be disappointed, and you'll probably, it will be a phenomenal park. And that's why I'm trying, he keeps saying Jagged Axe, but that's why right there is because of his work. And like Bob says, they are artists out there shaping the earth and moving it the way they want it to make it so, not so much as just flow, but also rawness and ruggedness of what you guys have here. Sorry.
Yeah, so we can take questions if anyone has them. If you don't have time for questions, you want to leave, that's totally cool. But yeah, if anyone has any questions for us, go ahead and shoot.
Hey, y'all talk about like races a lot. Say during the weekdays and kids are at school, whatever, is there a lot of downtime where this trail is just like anybody can go out there on their bike even if they're not a race biker?
So the races will be few and far between. They'll be well scheduled and deconflicted with any other events in town. So that trail system is not going to be occupied by races very often.
We're only here for one day.
Yes.
One day. We ask that we use it for one day and then we're out of here.
So that trail is not being built for races.
Yeah.
Nope.
Not at all, but it is good to use it because whenever you host a race, you literally have hundreds and hundreds, if not more, of people coming into town. And just like when we have a basketball tournament or something else, some other kind of event, that's through traffic through our town. Our eateries are busy, our gas stations, you know, all the little shops, you know, do benefit from that. But it's not being built to support the race community by no means.
Kind of like kayaking racing at Millstream Gardens, just like it's a big event, but you can go there any other time and just gotta go for yourself.
And plus, the races, it's a spectator's event, even if you're not a biker. I mean, there's nothing like sitting watching grown men my age come flying down a hill and just rolling it. I mean, there's everybody can enjoy the race, even if they're not a biker. So it brings a lot of advantages. Other questions in the back?
Will the trail be open, say, is there going to be a fee, like say similar to Lake Leatherwood and Eureka Springs where, you buy a wristband and you get a shuttle, so on and so forth? Or would it just be an open trail?
Well, it'll be an open trail. There will be no access points that are controlled. You'll come in and park it. Really, our goal, our vision is you can park your vehicle anywhere in Steelville, eventually, and be within a minute or two of the trailhead. That's going to link you. So you can park downtown, get your stuff out, get it ready, grab what supplies you need from the gas station, or get a bite to eat or a cup of coffee. Go hit the trail for a couple hours, wear yourself out, come back, get a bite to eat, go get some ice cream, go ride a little more, come back, have a beer, whatever, then go stay at your, vacation rental. That's our goal right there, and never have to leave town. So no, it's open to the public 24/7. And what is surprising is the mountain bike community takes care of itself. It takes care of the trails. I participated in other sports, and I've met people that I maybe didn't like or didn't enjoy the encounter. It's never happened on a mountain bike trail. You never pass a person in need. You never pass a person without greeting them. It's a unique community of good people, and they will contribute to the town if given that opportunity.
Can you go, sorry.
If I may, just one quick second.
Yeah.
Just to clarify for those that don't know. So we come from the volunteer side, and our goal is to bring something free and open for the community. Our primary purpose is for the community, not for the outside tourism. We emphasize that point to help justify the costs to bring in people to see revenue. But the point of the project, above everything else, is it's for the community. Open, free to the community. And to specify for Leatherwood, we have a similar situation with Ironton. We provide services. The park is open and free. You can ride, hike, do what you will with it, but there's an option to buy a ticket to provide a lift serve, because that is an exciting thing for people to do. They will ride lifts to the top, in our case, vehicles and really cool Hummers. And in Lake Leatherwood, the park is open. You can actually go ride it and do all your laps. It's a significant climb, but the option is to buy a ticket and ride the bus shuttle system that they have in place. Here, we haven't discussed this very much, but the way that the roads that are already in place happen to be and in existence, there's an option for what we call self-shuttling. So if you have a bunch of friends and everybody wants to ride, but they're focused more on the directional trails and the downhill trails, what we call the hubs, the center point for the connection of the beginnings of all the directional trails, we could have somebody, this nice gentleman actually took us around in his side-by-side, and they make nice bike racks for side-by-sides, and we can ride right up to the top and run down the hills, and we take turns, and somebody else drives the next time, and then we do it again and again and again, and then we go eat, we go to visit places. But I hope that helps clarify things. Free, open to the community, for the community. Thank you.
One question I thought somebody would ask is, wait, how about our kids? A lot of our kids don't have the cash to afford one of these mountain bikes up there. How will our kids participate if they're challenged in that way? And growing up poor, I couldn't afford a Huffy half my childhood, much less a Trek or a Specialized or something like this. But there's ways, and one of our core goals as a collective is to find a way for the kids in our town, if they want to ride, and if they're willing to do a little work and invest in the program, to have a mountain bike. And it's going to tie in with the maintenance program. Who's going to maintain this? Well, it's going to be the people that ride it. It's going to be us. And we see the opportunity there. If a kid wants to mountain bike and can't afford it, hey, come help, invest in with us, and we will get you on a bike. It may not be a new bike, but it'll be a bike. And there's ways of working with the shops. Buying used bikes, getting them back up and running, starter bikes. So definitely an opportunity there that everyone in our community can participate in this.
If I may, real quick, as far as that goes, my son came in with a nice big blue bike up there that's pretty expensive. When he decided to get into this and said, "Dad, I want this bike," I said, "No way." There's no way, we can't afford it. I'm a fireman, I'm not, you know, some well-off individual. And I said, you need to figure out a way to do it. And that's when he started contacting manufacturers and looking for sponsorships and looking for you know, going to bike shops. And it really builds a work ethic in these kids. You know, if they're involved in GORC and they're out there trail building and they're out there, you know, making friends and they're learning a skill, they're swinging shovels and axes and, you know, getting calluses on their hands. And it's just so cool to see them outside in nature, working, and then getting to enjoy their spoils. I mean, to see him ride down his local trail, something that he had hands in the dirt on, is really, really impressive.
Those life skills we talk about, teaching. I mean, what better environment to do it? And teach them respect. Not just respect for the people around, but for the environment. Now, one other one I thought we'd get asked was, hey, why should we invest as a town in this trail system when our infrastructure needs the money? And we're not proposing that this should take priority over infrastructure. All right. What we're saying, it is very important. We know there's a struggle with funds. I don't care what town you're in. There's always a budget and there's a struggle to make ends meet. Our town's no different. But this has the potential of great returns. It can grow the town. You know, if you look at at Ironton, Meyer, you could probably speak on some of the benefits, you know, economic benefits that's already came about since this program, you know, since you guys started building, maybe even before you started building. But there is a definite return that can happen if we get this phase 1 built.
So this is kind of where we can step in, and this is communication, and the aldermen have been kind enough to see us multiple times and discuss the options. It isn't open yet, but we've actually, Alex was kind enough to draw up a really quick bid, those kind of things, so they can start getting a picture and gauge what is possible and what increments of dollars based on the landscape, in this case over there, how many dollars it would take to get X number of miles of trail, and with the expectation of this level of attention, tourism, and quality for the community. The mayor was kind enough to meet with us. We met and had those discussions a little more open forum there, back and forth. And then the next step would be to meet again with all the city leaders and discuss that step and try to determine where that funding can come from and move forward there. If we can secure the funding, if the community says this is what we need and want, and we're blessed off with the funding level, the next step is then we start writing proposals. We start doing the bid forms. I've got plenty of examples of that stuff. We've helped with over $5 million in trail development across the state already. Getting pretty efficient with it, and we'll hand walk the city right through that process. Thank you.
Yeah, so.
Questions in the back.
Question in the back?
Yeah, so I guess since this is gonna be on city property, is this city owned and maintained, or is this like leased to your guys'
City park.
It's just gonna be the city
Normal,
park? And
you can think of it a park with trails. That's the easiest, yeah. Typically, that's part of our goal when we come in. There can be different objectives. We've discussed private property, private ownership, but our goal is it belongs to the people. It is the communities, and as you have claimed to any park, if you're a tax-paying person in this community, it'd be the same thing. And that's our specific push. In order for us to be involved, that's what we ask for.
Yeah, and it's also actually already owned by the city as well, if that's what you mean too.
I knew it was owned by the city, but I didn't know how it's gonna transfer
Yeah.
hands, or if it's staying with the city, or, you know, what's the taxpayer involvement in this, you know, as far as?
So that's where we're coming back basically to the funding question. And there's different resources, different communities, and that's something that we need to explore more and discuss. As an example, if there was a fund for parks that would be for more paved trails or parking lots or any of those things, we can help justify and allocate that money and shift it in the direction of these trails for this year. And then the goal would be is that the trails are open and everything's going well. You start seeing a shift in the economy around it, and then that will generate more revenue, which then can go into more infrastructure, better parking lots, more drinking fountains, those kind of things. And it's kind of a path that we follow. Does that help?
Yeah, I can see nothing but benefits drawing tourism in, because, you know, as a board member of a local 911 over here, we've seen an increase in tax revenue because of COVID. It gives people have to shop locally here, so anything that we bring in above and beyond the floating capital of the United States is going to be great. You know, so that's going to be nothing but beneficial for any entity in this county. So I think it's a good idea.
When we came in, I used this as a point when they were kind enough to hear us and let us speak in front of the board. This town is missed, and you kind of picked up on that a few times with each person talking. We go through the town. We have Forest City on one side, we've got Berryman Trail on the other, and now we got the whole southeast corridor being developed. I want to give them a reason to stop here, to stay here, to visit, to spend money in town, to use the Airbnbs, to go to the small stores. And that's another thing, and we've hit the point a lot. Mountain biking wants the small town atmosphere. They don't want the city, they don't want the big thing. They want the small town. And the goal, and from my experience at least traveling through here so much, the town quiets throughout the off season from floating. We want to give them a reason to stay open the whole time, but keep that same atmosphere. It's key in drawing in these people.
That's one thing, the season, if the ground is somewhat dry, bikers will be on the trails, right? I don't care if it's 4 degrees outside. There are people that will bundle up and they'll go on the trails because they love it that much. So there really isn't a down season per se, unless it's just extremely wet for some reason everywhere.
That's one thing about Dave should say is I am a heavy equipment operator. I've been around dirt my whole life and I know dirt. So up there on that mountain, you got nothing but rock and clay. It will shed the water like nothing. I do a lot. When I used to race endurance races, my main trail to train on was Berryman. Why Berryman? Because it's nothing but rock and clay. It's the water. Can it freeze inside the clay? Yes, it can. Any water can freeze in anything, but it takes a lot longer for it to penetrate the clay and then freeze it. And then when it does start thawing out, it's not as soft and mushy. So that's where I think if you do build trails, it's going to be something that's going to be totally rideable all year round. All year round. Even after it freezes, you might not be able when it starts thawing out, like around now, or snow and stuff like that. I was riding literally in the snow. A lot of people love to ride in the snow. I'm one of them. Once the snow starts getting on it, 2 to 3 inches, I'll ride all up to 4 inches. Once it gets up to 6 inches, a little bit too thick and too hard to ride through. Once it gets packed down, you sacrifice some idiot that wants to go first, let them go first, and just follow their track. But no, that clay and rock up there is perfect for riding all year round. It was amazing. I went up there today and checked it all out, and I was like, oh yes, this is awesome. So,
and if I may expand a little bit on both of your questions, not only are we here to inform today and to share our story and tell you what is possible, but to ask that if this is something you think you would like for your community, to tell your leaders, to help them decide what is most important in the future and where to allocate their efforts, right? As Kurt said, every community has their budget and their limitations and what they can do. And if you can show them that this is one of those things that we've got to do it, letters, talking to them, phone calls, emails, those kind of things, supportive stuff. And if you can tell the rest of your community the same, that would be awesome. Please.
Is there any plans for fundraising at this point?
So I'll let him expand on that, but Jacob has already done an excellent job in getting that wheel rolling.
Yeah, so we've just built a website with a way to donate. Thanks to Emerald over here in the center. Thank you for helping us build the website. But you can actually log on line at any point. There's a donate link, and basically everything that goes to that website is going directly to these trails. So yes, and we've got some plans to publicize that a bit more. But yeah, so we're fundraising if you feel so inclined.
Mountain bikers are generally social media connected, because that's like the underground of like how to find out about trails in different areas of different spaces. And there's a huge community of people that just communicate back and forth, like private news sources about, oh, this is cool trail over here. I had a great time over in such and such a place. And they're always looking for someplace new to go. So stuff like that, and that's how I got it, and I knew about it because he told me about it. And I got to see it, and I'm connected into that community. So once people start to get a little bit of buzz that something's happening in Steelville, people are going to come. They want to see new trails. It's like surfers. Like surfers are always traveling the world to try to find the best new wave. Mountain bikers have that a little bit. And people are willing to travel distances because they know if it's taken seriously, the trails are going to be good, and it's going to be a unique experience, and be fun. And the other part of it too is that like my favorite time of year to mountain bike is on the shoulder season, spring and fall. And you know, around here, probably the summertime is probably the busiest time with the floating, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, from 30 degrees to 80 degrees, mountain bikers love that. You know what I mean? Like we absolutely love it. If it's cool outside, just a little bit chilly, we love that because you can ride as hard as you want, you barely sweat. And as long as the dirt's dry, we're gonna ride. So it's amazing.
To help give perspective, obviously the shifting world that we're in right now, we invited key people who specialize in their individual portions of the cycling community for safety reasons for today, to keep spacing. But an event like this, when we get to this stage where we've gone through so many talks with the community and we're getting ready to present to the general public, we would fill this room easily, just so you know. And that, you can look back at our Ironton equivalent. That room was packed to the gills. So, and there's plenty of pictures and video coming from that. And I'm sorry, you've been raising your hand, please.
Just trying to understand it. So you're asking for the initial investment in the trail building through Jagged Axe or whoever from the city of Steelville.
Correct.
And then the mountain bike collective would be fundraising to maintain the trail using Jagged Axe or whoever you choose. Is that kind of the setup? Is that the way the process is?
In a sense, so every community is a little bit different, and their resources are a little bit different. So we kind of work through it, and that's where discussions have to come and off public meeting, kind of figure out where the numbers sit, what's priorities, and then we can bring it back to the public's attention, and we go back and forth, and we help guide it. Ironton is an example. They had a community fund down there, and the city of Ironton worked very hard to get access to what is known as the ISEP fund. It was related to the dam failure for the reservoir from some years back. It's a specialty fund to help develop the community. They had that option. Eureka was another example. Adam worked really hard throughout that. I assisted with him, and the intent of that, the whole point of that park, it came straight from the standard tax dollars from the community.
Right. I mean, just looking at the people that in the local community here that want to support what's going on and know that it takes a lot to maintain trails as well, and it's going to be an ongoing. And we don't want to see these beautiful trails and then just.
And that's where we come from, and we have a history to be able to show what you can do and what effort it takes, and we want to secure the future. And that also includes the expansions and the phases, but to better answer, I think, Ironton's experiencing this right now. Initially, we're building this thing and we were able to get funding from the immediate tax-paying citizen, right? Because that is a resource that a few people directly control. And so we can educate and inform those few people to make that decision. But once you get the notoriety, which is where we're at now, they have an entire sponsorship packet. Donations, grants, all of those things, they completely change once you get the people on the ground. Once you see the riders start, opening day, those kind of things, it's amazing. It's like a switch, and the floods just start happening. And asking for a grant before something exists is very difficult. But asking for a grant for something that is successful, to expand it, to be more successful, when we have the evidence to back it up, that's where those kind of things become much easier. And again, donations and so forth.
Like races, you bring a race in a couple times a year or whatever, we're gonna be able to use a portion of that to help maintain our trails. It's still from mountain bike.
I don't know if you're familiar with I'm guessing you're local to Steelville here. Cuba, yeah. I'm sure you've heard of St. James up there, the Forest City Trail. That trail is maintained by, I've heard roughly from as many as 2 to 3. So it's and it ain't of the same quality as we're going to be. I mean, it's still a great trail, but these trails are professionally built. They drain well. Typically, they spend the money to make sure these trails have better longevity. But so I mean, from a maintenance standpoint, it may not be as costly as it may seem. And like Dave was saying, you can contribute to that by, having something to work towards.
And I think, if I'm understanding correctly, yes, that's part of all these people that are in here, the trainers, the race hosts and so forth. Depending on the structure of what's in place with that community, there's ways that they can collect revenue, right? You can get a portion of fees, permits, those kind of things. That's what we're seeing in other communities. And again, it depends on the individual community and what their goal is, but that's another way to collect from the side of these. Basically, they want to hold an event. It's sort of like, you think of like a concert. I want to hold a concert. Well, what's the revenue from the concert for the community? And sometimes you got to put the revenue has to step back for a second and allow the concert to take place, and then the people that come to visit are that revenue generator. And again, it's all dependent on the structure of the individual governments, and that would be probably a more detailed discussion that would occur in front of the alderman and the mayor. Does that help?
Yes.
So I've heard a couple people ask about maintenance and things. I've been around the club 20 years, and we get groups out all the time to do maintenance. I'm more than happy to work with the collective. I keep all the tools at our house for our club. So I can show you which tools to get, which tools to stay away from. I can come down, numbers will come down, no problem, come help you guys, show you just little maintenance tips that will take care of it. And it'll be months between times you even do anything. You'll look at it occasionally, but you'll be months between touching anything. And with professional built trail, your maintenance will drop more. And with the soil types you have here, the park I designed is a Creve Coeur County park. It was the first park in Creve Coeur, and it's all lush soil. It rains, you're off that trail for 2 days. You can't touch it. People ride it, they'll cup it. Well, I then need to go in with a tool called a road hoe. It's made out of recycled farming discs. And we just shave that little lip that builds on the bottom side of the trail, we shave that off, and the water drains away from the trail. You're not going to have that trouble here because your soil type, your rocks. Your trails are going to be so bulletproof. Again, you talk about terms we use, bulletproof, because the ground won't shift on you as much as.
My question wasn't so much as just maintenance, but also expanding into phase 2, into phase 3. These just the opportunity to make money and put back into them. Like you mentioned, people start seeing the rewards. These businesses around here, they're not going to want that to go away. They're not going to want that to go away, and then maybe they start opening up their pocketbooks to that. Hey, we don't want it to go away. Let's build. Let's maintain. Let's keep this here.
Of course, and I nicknamed it future proofing, and that's part of this process. We log all our hours. Either they're viewable. Last year we did, I think, over 8,000. I can account for thousands in Ironton alone, and those kind of questions and that goal, that's what we meet for. And that's actually where we call in the community. So while we assist, we translate, and we can kind of guide and point out where it fits in the cycling community and where it might not. They stepped up. They have a whole team. They made a group called VGI, and it is community leaders, restaurant owners, business owners, real estate people, etc. And each one of them, and I think it was Jay that said that, we each take a piece, right? And helping to get sponsors. One person worked really, really hard to develop that packet, brought it to us in the group, and then the whole group assists. And working with, designing an event or an event planning. One person worked really hard, and we kind of split it up, and so forth. And that's how we keep things going. Another element to make it really simple is continued expansion. So there is an endless amount of land out here. We had offers of another extra 150 acres already just in a simple discussion that could possibly be developed. Don't build everything first. Don't build the entire thing first. Build a certain level and basically stop, and then plan to keep expanding and adding that next trail, that next element, that next phase. And just assume that we get the major phase or phases done. You want to make sure there's always that next trail, that thing that is different. So if we compare it to sports fields, right? Now there's quality differences. People who are long-term professional players, they can tell the difference. But generally speaking, the goal is to make them all look the same. In mountain biking, you want nothing to look the same. And so you might have cross-country and directional trails, and that term is used 50, 100 miles away for another park of similar size. They're completely different places. They're different soil types. They're different artists put them together differently. The community here sees it differently and designs it differently. And that's the exciting part for cyclists. They want to ride the different thing, and that's why they'll drive so far to do it. I'm not exaggerating, I've driven over 30 hours straight to go ride a place because it was different. And yeah, and so that's why this is different. We're not building something that's the same everywhere else. It won't be the same. The landscape's different, the soil types are different, and the people who put the love and care into it are different. And that's what will keep people coming back. That helps.
Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say that we do have an open meeting every first and third Monday of the month. Anybody, this will be an ongoing discussion with our city council, and anybody's welcome to join us and listen to how this progresses as we move along.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if there's no other questions, check out our website. You can find us there, and I've linked a lot of websites. People who spoke tonight, you can find more information about their projects too. And if we haven't met before, I'd love to chat before you leave and exchange contact information. But thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.